Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. His reptilian eyes studied the empty space ahead. The Galactic Coalition fleet had been exploring this sector for 3 days now, and they had found nothing interesting. Just cold space and dead rocks floating in the darkness. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Vex from the sensor station, "we have something strange on the long-range scanners." Kethvar turned his large head toward the young officer. His scales gleamed under the bridge lights as he moved. "What kind of strange?" "A ship, sir. It appears to be drifting. No power signatures, no life signs. But the metal composition is unusual." The Admiral walked over to look at the readings himself. After 40 years of service in the Coalition fleet, he had seen many derelict ships. Pirates, smugglers, and merchants often met bad ends in deep space. But this one was different. "The hull design is primitive," Vex continued. "Very old style. But, sir, the materials show traces of human construction." A ripple of surprise went through the bridge crew. Everyone knew about humans. They had been one of the younger species in the galaxy, appearing only a few hundred years ago. They had fought terrible wars on their home planet, then spread disease across their colonies. The humans had destroyed themselves completely about 200 years ago. Their home world was now a dead rock, and no human had been seen anywhere in the galaxy since then. "That's impossible," said Captain Zora Tekalani from her position near the communications array. She was a crystalline, her body made of living crystal that sparkled with inner light. "Humans have been extinct for 2 centuries. "I know what the sensors are telling me," Vex replied firmly. Admiral Kethvar studied the readings more carefully. The ship was definitely there, drifting about 5,000 kilometers away. It was small, maybe big enough for 20 crew members. The design was simple and rough, like something built quickly by people who didn't have much time or resources. "Take us closer," he ordered. "But keep shields up and weapons ready. Even if it's a human ship, we don't know what might be inside." The Coalition flagship moved slowly toward the derelict vessel. As they got closer, the details became clearer. The ship's hull was scarred with weapon impacts and radiation burns. Parts of it had been patched with different metals, as if the crew had been making repairs during a long journey. "Sir," called the communications officer, a tall, thin being with blue skin, "I'm picking up a weak signal from the ship. It's very faint, but it appears to be an automatic beacon. Can you decode it?" "Working on it now, sir. The language is..." "Yes, it's an old human dialect. The message says, 'Warning to all vessels. Do not follow our path. The grave must not be disturbed. The old guard sleeps, and sleeping, they wait.'" Captain Teklani's crystal body flickered with interest. "The old guard? What does that mean?" "Unknown, Captain, but there's more. The beacon also contains coordinates to something called the Old Guard's Rest. The location appears to be deeper in this system, near a dark matter concentration." Admiral Kethvar felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Dark matter concentrations were dangerous and unpredictable. Ships that went too close sometimes disappeared completely. But the human message suggested something was hidden there on purpose. "Prepare a boarding party," he ordered. "Captain Teklani, I want you to lead it. Take a full security team and whatever scanning equipment you need. If there are any clues about what the humans were doing here, I want to know." An hour later, Captain Teklani floated through the airlock of the human ship. Her crystal body didn't need a spacesuit like the other team members, which made her perfect for boarding operations. The security team followed her, their weapons ready. The inside of the ship was dark and cold. The air had been gone for decades, maybe longer. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the corridors, powered by some kind of backup system that was almost dead. "The ship's layout is simple," Tekalani reported over the communication link. "One main corridor with rooms on both sides. I can see what looks like a control room at the front and living quarters toward the back." She moved through the ship carefully, her crystal body glowing softly to provide light. The walls were covered with pictures and writing in human languages. Most of it was too faded to read, but she could make out some words. Home, family, never forget. The control room was small and cramped. Ancient computer screens hung dark and silent. But when Thekalani touched one of the control panels, it suddenly came to life. Human text began scrolling across the screen. "I've found the ship's log," she reported. "The computer is still working somehow, downloading the data now." As the information flowed into her scanner, Thekalani began to understand what she was seeing. This had been a refugee ship, carrying human families away from their dying colonies. But they hadn't been running away randomly. They had been searching for something specific. The log entries told a story of desperate hope. The humans on this ship believed in an old legend about ancient warriors who had gone into deep sleep, waiting for the day when humanity would need them most. These warriors were called the Old Guard, and they were supposed to be the greatest fighters humanity had ever produced. "Admiral," Thekalani called over the radio, "you need to hear this. The ship's final log entry says they found what they were looking for. The coordinates match the dark matter concentration in this system." "What exactly did they find, Captain?" "According to this, they found a massive construct hidden in the dark matter field. The log describes it as a tomb for heroes and the sleeping place of Earth's greatest defenders." "But, sir, there's something else. The last entry is only 3 days old. That's impossible. This ship has been dead for decades." "The log entry isn't from the ship's original crew. Someone else was here recently. Someone updated the log with a single message. 'The children have come home. The vigil continues. Let none disturb the sacred rest.'" A chill ran through the boarding team. If someone had been on this ship just 3 days ago, where were they? Now! And what was this construct they had found? "Captain, get back to the ship immediately," Admiral Kethvar ordered. "All teams return to stations. We're going to investigate this dark matter concentration." As the boarding party returned to the flagship, long-range sensors began picking up something unusual from the direction of the dark matter field. Energy readings were appearing where there should be nothing but empty space. "Sir," Lieutenant Vex called out, his voice tight with worry, "the dark matter field is showing massive energy spikes. Something big is in there, and I think our presence here has activated it." Admiral Kethvar stared at the sensor readings. Whatever the humans had found in that dark matter field, it was waking up. And after 200 years of sleep, it might not be happy about being disturbed. "All ships, battle stations," he ordered. "If these old guard are real, we're about to find out what human legends are really made of." In the depths of space, ancient systems that had waited centuries for this moment finally began to stir. The dead ship's beacon had served its purpose. The warning had been given, and it had been ignored. Now the sleeping giants would wake, and the galaxy would learn why some graves should never be disturbed. The Coalition fleet moved slowly toward the dark matter field, their sensors working hard to see through the strange energy that twisted space around them. Admiral Kethvar watched the readings with growing concern. The energy spikes were getting stronger, and they seemed to be coming from something very large hidden in the darkness. "Distance to the anomaly?" he asked. 50,000 kilometers and closing," reported Lieutenant Vex. "Sir, I'm reading massive structural signatures. Whatever is in there, it's huge, possibly larger than our entire fleet combined." Captain Thekalani stood beside the Admiral, her crystal body flickering with nervous light. She had spent the last hour studying the data from the human ship, and what she had found worried her deeply. "Admiral, the human logs mention something called a necropolis ship. According to their records, it's a mobile tomb built to house thousands of their greatest. Warriors in suspended sleep." Suspended sleep? For how long? "The logs suggest it's been there for over 300 years. But, sir, if the humans built something that large and that advanced, why didn't we know about it? Our historical records show humans as a primitive species with basic technology. Before Admiral Kethvar could answer, every screen on the bridge suddenly went bright white. A powerful signal had broken through all their communications, all their security systems, and every piece of electronic equipment on every ship in the fleet. Then the signal spoke. The voice was human, but it was unlike any human voice in the historical records. It was deep and strong, but also very old and very tired. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, which was impossible since humans had been extinct long before that language was created. "Unknown vessels," the voice said, "you have entered sacred space. This is the resting place of Terra's final legion, the old guard of humanity's children. You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences of disturbing the honored dead." Admiral Kethvar stepped forward. "This is Admiral Kethvar of the Galactic Coalition Fleet. We claim salvage rights over any derelict vessels in this sector. Identify yourself and stand down." The response came not through the communication system, but directly into the minds of everyone on every ship. The mental voice was filled with cold anger and bitter sadness. "We are the promise that was kept when all others were broken. We are the sword that sleeps but never rusts. We are the old guard, and we have watched over our people for 3 centuries of darkness. You would claim salvage rights over the graves of heroes? You would disturb the sleep of those who died so their children might live?" Captain Teclani felt a strange sensation, as if something was looking directly into her thoughts. "Admiral, they're scanning us. Not our ships, our minds. They know everything about us." The mental voice continued, and now it carried a tone of terrible understanding. "Coalition forces, we know your kind, we know your history. Your predecessors tried to destroy humanity once before. They failed, but not before countless millions died. You carry their legacy, their crimes, their guilt." "That's impossible," Admiral Kethvar growled. "Humans destroyed themselves. Everyone knows that." "Everyone knows lies," the voice replied. "The truth sleeps with us in the dark, waiting for the day of judgment. That day has come." Suddenly, the dark matter field began to change. The energy readings spiked higher than the sensors could measure, and something massive started to emerge from the hidden depths. Lieutenant Vex stared at his instruments in shock. "Sir, I'm reading a construct it's moon-sized. How is that possible? How did they hide something that big?" The object that came out of the dark matter field was beyond anything the Coalition had ever seen. It was shaped like a massive sword thrust point first into space, its hull black as the void itself. Strange symbols glowed along its length. Human, writing, but in a style that seemed both ancient and impossibly advanced. But it wasn't alone. Smaller ships began emerging from bays along the construct's length. These weren't the crude, patched vessels the Coalition expected from human refugees. These ships moved like living things, bending space around them as they flew. Their hulls seemed to absorb light, making them hard to see even when they were right in front of the Coalition fleet. "All ships, raise shields and prepare for combat," Admiral Kethvar ordered. "We're facing unknown technology, but remember, these are just humans. Extinct humans with outdated equipment." His confidence lasted exactly 30 seconds. The first human ship to reach the Coalition line moved through their formation like it was made of mist. Energy shields that could stop planet-killing weapons didn't even slow it down. The ship materialized inside a Coalition cruiser's hull and fired once. The cruiser simply disappeared. Not destroyed, erased, as if it had never existed at all. "What kind of weapon was that?" Captain Teclani whispered. "Unknown," Vex reported, his voice shaking. "The ship just stopped being there." More Old Guard vessels engaged the Coalition fleet, and each encounter brought new horrors. Their weapons ignored shields and armor. They fired beams that turned matter into energy, missiles that created tiny black holes, and something that made entire ships fold in on themselves until they became points of light. But worse than their weapons was their skill. The old guard pilots fought like they had been training for this battle for centuries. They knew exactly where each coalition ship would move, exactly when to fire, exactly how to cause the most damage with the least effort. They're not just fighting us, Captain Theklani realized as she watched the battle unfold on the tactical display. They're teaching us a lesson. Every attack is precise, controlled. They could destroy us all in minutes, but they're holding back. Why would they hold back? Admiral Kethvar asked, even as another of his ships vanished from the display. The mental voice answered him directly. Because we are not murderers. We are guardians. We fight only to protect, never to conquer. But make no mistake, we will protect our people with every weapon at our command, every skill we have learned, every drop of blood in our bodies. Your people are extinct, the Admiral shouted. Are they? The voice asked quietly. Are you so certain of that? Have you looked closely at your own crews lately? Have you studied the genetic records of your own coalition citizens? Do you truly believe that a species as stubborn and adaptable as humanity would simply fade away into the night? Captain Theklani felt her crystal body grow cold. She had been studying the human DNA samples from the derelict ship, and there had been something familiar about them. Something that reminded her of genetic patterns she had seen in coalition databases. Admiral, she said quietly, I need to run some tests. The human genetic material I found, I think there might be connections to current coalition populations. What kind of connections? I'm not sure yet. But if humans have been surviving in secret, if they've been living among us all this time, she didn't need to finish the thought. If humans were still alive, hidden throughout coalition space, then the old guard wasn't just protecting graves and memories. They were protecting living people, and the coalition fleet had just declared war on their guardians. The battle continued, but it was already clear who would win. The old guard ships moved through the coalition formation like ghosts, striking where they pleased and vanishing before return fire could find them. Sir, Lieutenant Vex called out, the large construct is moving. It's accelerating toward our position. Admiral Kethvar watched in fascination and horror as the moon-sized vessel began to move. If something that large hit his fleet at speed, it would destroy every ship they had. All vessels, emergency withdrawal, he ordered. Fall back to the edge of the system. But as the coalition ships tried to retreat, the mental voice spoke one more time. You came here seeking salvage and found guardians. You came expecting to find weakness and found strength. You came thinking humanity was extinct and discovered that legends sometimes come true. Run if you must. But remember this day. Remember that some things in this galaxy are worth protecting, and some people will never stop protecting them. The coalition fleet limped away from the battle, damaged and confused. Behind them, the old guard returned to their tomb ship, which settled, back into the dark matter field to wait. But the waiting was different now. The old guard had revealed themselves, and there would be consequences. The question was, what would the coalition do next? And more importantly, how many humans were really out there, hidden among the stars, depending on their ancient guardians to keep them safe? Admiral Kethvar stood in the emergency briefing room aboard the Coalition command station, facing a wall of angry alien faces. The High Command had arrived within hours of receiving his report, and they were not pleased. Explain to me again, said Supreme Commander Vorth, a massive insectoid being with compound eyes that reflected the room's lights, how a handful of extinct humans destroyed 12 of our finest warships. Their technology is far more advanced than our records indicated, Kethvar replied carefully. Their weapons appear to manipulate fundamental forces we don't understand. Dark energy, quantum manipulation, matter conversion, impossible, interrupted General Hask, slamming his four-armed body against the table. Humans were barely out of their stone age when they destroyed themselves. Our historical records are very clear. Captain Theklani stepped forward, her crystal body dim with worry. Supreme Commander, I've been analyzing the genetic data from the human derelict. I found something disturbing. What kind of disturbing? Human DNA markers in coalition citizen databases, thousands of them, scattered across dozens of worlds. The patterns suggest humans have been living among us for generations, hiding their true nature through genetic modification and careful integration. The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. If humans were alive and hidden throughout Coalition space, then everything they thought they knew about human extinction was wrong. That's ridiculous, General Hask growled. We would have detected them. Would we? Tekalani asked quietly. Humans were known for their adaptability. If they chose to hide, if they changed their appearance and their genetic signatures, how would we know to look for them? Supreme Commander Vorth leaned back in his chair, his compound eyes reflecting different colors as he thought. Even if this is true, it doesn't change our situation. These old guard have attacked coalition forces. They've declared war on us. We cannot allow that to stand. Sir, Admiral Kethvar said, I recommend caution. Their weapons are beyond anything we've seen. A direct confrontation could what? Are you afraid of ghosts and legends? Vorth's voice carried the buzz of anger. Summon the Grand Armada. 1,000 ships, our most advanced weapons, our best crews. We'll show these human relics what real power looks like. Captain Thekalani felt her crystal body flicker with alarm. Supreme Commander, that might not be wise. If there are hidden human populations throughout our space, attacking their guardians could trigger widespread uprising. Then we'll deal with the hidden humans too, General Hask replied. Root them out, identify them, relocate them to controlled sectors. The Coalition has survived for 1,000 years by maintaining order. We won't let primitive human emotions disrupt that order. 3 days later, the Grand Armada assembled at the edge of the dark matter field. 1,000 ships of the line, including super dreadnoughts capable of cracking planets and carriers holding 10,000 fighter craft. It was the largest fleet the Coalition had assembled in over a century. Admiral Kethvar commanded from the bridge of the flagship Eternal Victory, watching as his massive fleet arranged itself into attack formation. Beside him, Captain Theklani monitored communications, hoping against hope that they could find a peaceful solution. Sir, she reported, I'm receiving a transmission from the construct. It's the same voice as before. Put it through. The mental voice spoke to every person in the Armada, carrying sadness and resignation. So you have chosen to escalate. You bring 1,000 ships to destroy a handful of guardians. You prove that some things never change. When faced with something you don't understand, you try to destroy it. Supreme Commander Vorth, commanding from his own flagship, responded with coldness. Surrender now, and we will consider allowing your construct to depart Coalition space. Continue to resist, and we will reduce it to atoms. You misunderstand our purpose, the voice replied. We are not here to conquer or expand. We are here to protect, and we will protect our people with our dying breath as we have for 3 centuries. Your people are extinct, Vorth snarled. Are they? Look around you, Commander. Look at your own crews. How many faces do you see that could be human with slight modifications? How many genetic patterns in your databases carry traces of Terra? How many Coalition citizens carry the blood of the species you think you destroyed? Admiral Kethvar felt a chill run down his spine. He had been thinking about Captain Thekalani's findings, and some of his own crew members did have features that could be explained by human ancestry. The pilot who flew his personal shuttle had eyes that were very human-like. His communications officer had a bone structure that resembled the skulls they had found on human archaeological sites. Even if that's true, Vorth replied, it changes nothing. You will surrender or be destroyed. Then let us show you what 300 years of preparation can accomplish. The old guard emerged from their construct in force. Not dozens of ships this time, but hundreds. They flowed out of the tomb ship like a dark tide, their vessels moving in perfect coordination. But this time, The coalition was ready. "All ships, open fire," Vorth commanded. "Everything we have." The space between the two fleets lit up with energy beams, missile strikes, and exotic weapons. The coalition's overwhelming firepower should have ended the battle in minutes. Instead, it became a nightmare. The old guard ships moved through the weapons fire like it was nothing more than rain. They appeared and disappeared, struck and vanished, hit targets that should have been impossible to reach. But more terrifying than their abilities was their strategy. They weren't trying to destroy the coalition fleet. They were converting it. "Sir," called the tactical officer aboard the Eternal Victory, "enemy vessels are using some kind of nanite swarm. They're breaking down destroyed coalition ships and rebuilding them as Guardian vessels." Admiral Kethvar watched in horror as a coalition cruiser, torn apart by Guardian weapons, suddenly reassembled itself with black hull plating and impossible maneuverability. The converted ship immediately turned on its former allies. "They're growing stronger with every ship we lose," Captain Theklani observed. "This isn't a battle. It's a harvest." But the coalition had numbers, and not all their weapons were useless. Slowly, painfully, they began to inflict casualties on the old guard. Guardian ships fell, their pilots transmitting final messages as they died. "For the children who never made it home," came one voice. "For the dream of Terra," came another. "For humanity's future," said a third. Each dying Guardian pilot spoke of protecting something precious, something worth dying for. They weren't fighting for conquest or glory. They were fighting for people they loved, people they had sworn to protect. "Admiral," Captain Theklani said quietly, "they're not going to surrender. They can't. If they fail here, if they all die, who will protect the hidden human populations?" "Maybe the hidden humans can protect themselves," Admiral Kethvar replied, but his voice lacked conviction. The battle raged for hours. The coalition's superior numbers began to tell as more Guardian ships fell. But each Guardian death cost them dearly. 5, 6, sometimes 10 coalition vessels for every Guardian destroyed. Then something changed. The massive construct, the tomb ship itself, began to accelerate toward the center of the coalition fleet. Its movement was slow but unstoppable, like a moon falling from orbit. "All ships, emergency evasion," Admiral Kethvar ordered. "Do not let that thing reach the fleet center." But as the construct moved, it began to change. Weapon ports opened, along its length, not dozens, but thousands. Energy readings spiked beyond measurement as systems that had been sleeping for centuries came online. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "that construct isn't just a tomb. It's the largest weapon platform ever built." The tomb ship opened fire. Space itself seemed to tear as beams of impossible energy reached out from the construct. Entire squadrons of coalition ships simply ceased to exist. Others were transformed into something else, matter rearranged at the atomic level into forms that served the old guard. "Retreat," Supreme Commander Vorth finally ordered. "All ships, emergency withdrawal." But as the coalition fleet tried to escape, the mental voice spoke one more time, and this time it carried not anger, but infinite sadness. "We never wanted this war. We wanted only to sleep in peace, to guard our people from the shadows, to let them build new lives in secret. But you forced us to reveal ourselves. You forced us to fight. And now the galaxy knows that humanity's guardians are real, and that we will never stop protecting our own." The coalition fleet limped away from the battle, leaving behind the wreckage of hundreds of ships and thousands of dead. Behind them, the old guard returned to their construct, but their secret was out. Humanity had guardians. Humanity had survived. And those guardians were willing to fight the entire galaxy to keep their people safe. The question now was, what would happen when the hidden humans learned that their protectors had revealed themselves? And what would the coalition do when they realized that the enemy they faced was not just a handful of ancient warriors, but potentially millions of hidden humans scattered throughout their territory? The war was just beginning. The space between the fleets had become a graveyard. Twisted metal from both Coalition and Guardian ships drifted in the darkness, glowing with radiation from exotic weapons. The massive tomb ship hung motionless in the center of it all, its weapon ports still glowing with deadly energy. Captain Theklani floated in her personal research vessel at the edge of the battle zone, studying the quantum signatures left by the Guardian weapons. Her crystal body pulsed with confused light as she tried to understand what she had witnessed. "This doesn't make sense," she murmured to herself. "The energy patterns, the technology, it's not just advanced. It's impossible. They're using physics that shouldn't exist." Her contemplation was interrupted by an incoming transmission, but this wasn't coming through normal communication channels. Like before, it appeared directly in her mind, bypassing all her ship's systems. "Captain Theklani." The voice was tired but gentle, different from the commanding tone they had heard before. "You have been studying us. You seek to understand. Perhaps it is time for understanding." "Who are you?" she asked aloud. "I am General Marcus Chen, commander of the Old Guard, last survivor of Terra's final legion. I have been alive for 412 years, and I am very tired of fighting." Theklani felt her crystal structure shiver. 400 years. That was impossible for any human, even with advanced medical technology. "You're lying. Humans don't live that long." "Humans don't, but I am no longer entirely human. None of us are. We were changed, enhanced, rebuilt to serve as eternal guardians. We gave up our humanity to protect humanity. Do you understand the irony in that?" Before she could respond, her ship's systems activated on their own. Data began flowing across her screens, not sensor readings, but historical records, genetic patterns, and archaeological evidence. "What is this?" she asked. "The truth. The real history of what happened to humanity. Your Coalition records are lies, created to hide the greatest crime in galactic history." The data told a story that made Theklani's crystal body grow dim with horror. Humanity hadn't destroyed itself through war and plague. They had been systematically exterminated by an earlier version of the Galactic Coalition, a predecessor organization that saw human adaptability and rapid technological advancement as a threat to established order. The evidence was overwhelming. Military records showing planned biological attacks on human colonies, scientific reports detailing how to engineer the Void Plague to target human genetics specifically. Communication intercepts between Coalition leaders discussing the final solution to the human problem. "The civil wars were manufactured," General Chen's voice continued. "We created fake conflicts to make humans fight each other, weakening them for the final assault. The plague wasn't a natural disease. It was a biological weapon designed to kill only humans and leave their worlds ready for colonization. But some humans survived," Theklani whispered. "A few colonies in deep space escaped the initial assault. They went into hiding, changing their genetics, altering their appearance, learning to blend in with other species. They became refugees in their own galaxy, always watching for signs that the Coalition had found them." More data flowed across her screens. DNA analysis showing human genetic markers scattered throughout Coalition space, population records with subtle inconsistencies that suggested hidden immigration, archaeological evidence of human settlements on worlds that were supposedly never colonized by humans. "They're everywhere," she realized. "Hidden human populations on dozens of worlds." "Hundreds of worlds," Chen corrected. "They've been your neighbors, your co-workers, your friends for generations. Some of them don't even know their own heritage. Their ancestors hid so well that the truth was forgotten. And you've been protecting them all this time?" "That was our mission. A handful of enhanced super soldiers, modified beyond recognition, watching over scattered human communities from the shadows. We were supposed to intervene only if humanity faced complete extinction." Theklani studied the genetic data more carefully. Some of the patterns looked familiar. Very familiar. She ran a comparison with her own ship's crew records and felt her crystal structure nearly shatter with shock. "My pilot," she whispered. "My communications officer. They have human markers in their genetics, as do many members of your own coalition. The species you thought you had destroyed has been living among you for centuries, contributing to your society, helping to build the very civilization that once tried to wipe them out." The implications were staggering. If humans were integrated throughout coalition society, then the attack on the old guard wasn't just an assault on ancient guardians. It was an attack on the protectors of coalition citizens. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because the situation has changed. By revealing ourselves, by fighting your fleets, we've put our people in danger. Soon, coalition intelligence will begin looking for hidden humans. They'll start genetic testing, background investigations, relocations. Our people will suffer for our choice to protect them. So what do you want me to do? Help me contact them. The hidden human communities need to know what's happening. They need to choose their own path instead of depending on ancient guardians, who may not survive the next battle." Theklani was quiet for a long moment, studying the evidence General Chen had shared with her. Everything she had believed about human extinction was wrong. Everything her own species had been taught about. The Coalition's noble history was a lie. "How do I know you're telling the truth? How do I know this isn't some kind of human trick?" "Because," Chen replied sadly, "you can verify every piece of evidence yourself. Check the archaeological records, compare the genetic data, study the historical documents. The truth has been hidden, but it was never completely erased." As if to prove his point, Theklani's ship received a massive data transmission, terabytes of information containing genetic records, historical documents, archaeological surveys, and scientific reports. All of it supported Chen's story. "There's too much here," she said. "It would take months to verify all of this." "Then start with what you can verify quickly. Check the genetic patterns of your own crew. Look up the population records of your home world. Ask yourself why certain archaeological sites are classified beyond your security clearance." Theklani began running quick genetic scans of her crew members. The results made her crystal body flicker with amazement. Her pilot showed clear human ancestry going back at least 6 generations. Her communications officer had human genetic markers that had been carefully masked by medical treatments. Even her security chief had traces of human DNA in his family line. "They don't know, do they?" she asked. "Most of them don't. Their ancestors hid so well that the knowledge was lost. But some communities remember. Some kept the old stories, the old traditions, the old dreams of returning to the stars as free humans rather than hidden refugees. And now those communities are in danger because you revealed yourselves to protect them. Yes, the greatest irony of all, by choosing to defend our people, we may have doomed them to discovery and persecution. Theklani made a decision that would change everything. I'll help you contact them, but I want something in return." "What?" "I want you to consider that not all coalition members are your enemies. Some of us never knew the truth about what happened to humanity. Some of us would choose differently if we knew the real history." There was a long pause before Chen responded. "You're asking me to trust the coalition after what they did to my people. I'm asking you to trust individuals within the coalition, who might be horrified to learn what was done in their name. I'm asking you to consider that the organization that destroyed humanity might not be the same as the one that exists today. And if I'm wrong? If your coalition leaders choose to hunt down every hidden human they can find, then you'll need allies inside the coalition to help protect them. You'll need people like me who have access to databases, communication networks, and official channels." Another pause. Then Chen's mental voice carried a hint of something Theklani hadn't heard before. Hope. "Very well, Captain. But understand this. If you betray the trust I'm about to place in you, if you use this information to harm my people, there will be no place in this galaxy where you can hide from us." "I understand." Now, how do we contact the hidden human communities without alerting coalition intelligence? Carefully, Chen replied, and quickly, because I fear our time is running out. My superiors in the coalition are already planning their next move, and it won't be another fleet battle. They're going to strike at civilian targets, trying to draw us out by threatening innocent lives, including hidden human communities, especially hidden human communities. Once they realize the truth, they'll see every human settlement as a potential threat to be eliminated. Theklani felt her crystal body grow cold with determination. She had spent her career studying the past, trying to understand how civilizations rose and fell. Now she had a chance to prevent the fall of an entire species, again. Then we'd better work fast, she said. Because if your people are truly scattered throughout coalition space, then we're not just trying to save humanity. We're trying to save ourselves. General Marcus Chen stood in the heart of the tomb ship, surrounded by the sleeping forms of his remaining warriors. Each stasis pod contained a guardian who had served for centuries, enhanced beyond normal human limits, but still carrying the memories of a world that no longer existed. The battle with the Coalition Grand Armada had cost them dearly. Of the 1,000 guardians who had begun the vigil 3 centuries ago, only 200 remained. The others had died in countless small conflicts, worn down by age and enhancement failures, or fallen in the recent battles. "Sir," came a voice from behind him. Chen turned to see Lieutenant Sarah Voss, one of the youngest guardians at only 150 years old. Her body showed the signs of their enhancements: skin that gleamed like metal, eyes that glowed with inner light, reflexes faster than any natural human could achieve. "What is it, Sarah?" "The coalition captain, Thekalani, has established contact with 17 hidden human settlements. The communities are confused, sir. Many of them didn't even know we existed." Chen nodded sadly. That had always been the plan. Keep the human communities so hidden that even they forgot about their guardians. But now that secrecy was working against them. "What are they saying?" "Some want to reveal themselves and join us in fighting the coalition. Others want to stay hidden and hope this all passes over. A few are angry that we revealed ourselves and put them at risk." "And what does Captain Thekalani recommend?" "She thinks we should call for a general stand-down. Stop fighting the coalition and try to negotiate. She believes there are enough coalition leaders who would be horrified by the truth to force a peaceful solution." Chen looked around at the sleeping guardians, thinking about the promise he had made when he first accepted the enhancements that would extend his life far beyond normal human limits. He had sworn to protect humanity no matter the cost, even if it meant giving up his own chance at a normal life. "Lieutenant, access the historical files. Show me the colony of New Haven." Voss activated a holographic display that showed a peaceful human settlement on a distant world. Families walked through gardens, children played in open spaces, and people lived the kind of quiet, happy lives that humans had once enjoyed on their home world. "New Haven was one of our success stories," Chen said quietly. 1,000 humans, living in secret, contributing to the local coalition world's economy while carefully hiding their true nature. They had been safe for over a century. The hologram changed, showing the same settlement in ruins. Buildings burned, bodies in the streets, and coalition security forces standing guard over a few dozen survivors in chains. "What happened?" Voss asked, though she already knew the answer. "They were discovered. A routine genetic screening revealed human markers in one of their children. Coalition authorities declared the entire settlement a security risk and ordered it sterilized." The hologram showed more scenes, other hidden human communities that had been found and destroyed over the centuries. Not by official coalition policy, but by local authorities who saw humans as a threat to order and stability. "This is what happens when our people trust the coalition," Chen continued. "Even the good coalition officers like Captain Theklani operate within a system that has shown us again and again that it cannot be trusted with human lives. But, sir, She's been helping us contact the communities. She's risking her own career, and I respect her for that. But one good officer cannot change an entire system. How long before her superiors discover what she's doing? How long before they use her connections to hunt down every community we've revealed? As if summoned by his words, Chen's communication. System activated. Captain Thekalani's voice came through, tight with urgency. General Chen, we have a problem. Coalition intelligence has discovered our communications. They're tracking the signals to locate hidden human settlements. How long do we have? Chen asked. Hours, maybe less. Admiral Keth Var is trying to delay the operation, but Supreme Commander Vorth has ordered immediate action. They're sending strike teams to 6 different worlds. Chen closed his eyes and felt the weight of 4 centuries pressing down on him. The decision he was about to make would define the future of his species and possibly end it. Lieutenant Voss, wake all remaining Guardians. Prepare for final protocols. Sir, final protocols means I know what it means. Wake them all. As alarm signals echoed through the tomb ship, 200 stasis pods began opening. Warriors who had slept for decades opened their eyes, automatically checking their weapons and equipment as centuries of training took over. Chen's mental voice reached out to every Guardian simultaneously. My friends, my fellow protectors, the time has come for our final choice. The Coalition has discovered our hidden communities. In hours, strike teams will move against innocent human families who have lived in peace for generations. He shared everything: Thekalani's intelligence, the locations of the threatened settlements, the size of the Coalition forces being deployed. We can save them, he continued, but only by revealing the full extent of our capabilities. We would have to fight not just the Coalition military, but their entire civilization. We would become the monsters they claim we are. Or, asked Commander, Torres, the oldest Guardian after Chen himself. Or we trust that humanity no longer needs guardians. We stand down, let Captain Thekalani and her allies try to stop the strike teams through political means, and hope that our people have grown strong enough to protect themselves. The debate that followed was swift but intense. Some Guardians wanted to fight, to use every weapon in their arsenal to protect the hidden communities. Others argued that revealing their true power would only make things worse for human survivors. Finally, Guardian Captain Williams spoke up. She had been enhanced 300 years ago, giving up her chance at a normal life to serve as humanity's protector. Sir, what do the communities themselves want? Chen activated the communication link to all 17 settlements that Thekalani had contacted. This is General Chen. You all know the situation. Coalition forces are moving against human communities throughout their space. We can protect you, but only by starting a war that might destroy everything humans have built in this galaxy. What do you choose? The responses came quickly, and they surprised even Chen. We choose to stand and fight for ourselves, said Dr. Elena Vasquez from the colony on Kepler Prime. Our ancestors hid so we could survive. We survived so we could choose our own destiny. We choose to be free. We're tired of hiding, added Engineer David Kim from the settlement on Arcturus 7th. Our children ask questions we can't answer. Dream dreams we're afraid to let them pursue. It's time to stop being refugees in our own galaxy. We don't want you to fight our battles for us, said teacher Maria Santos from New Cordoba. We want you to teach us how to fight them ourselves. One by one, the hidden human communities spoke up. Some wanted to continue hiding, but most chose something the Guardians had never expected. They chose to reveal themselves on their own terms. We're not the scared refugees our grandparents were, explained colony leader James Chen from New Earth Station. We've learned from living among other species. We've contributed to Coalition science, art, and culture. We're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for the same rights as any other Coalition citizens. General Chen felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: hope mixed with pride. The children his generation had died to protect had grown into something strong and confident. "Captain Theklani," he called over the communication link, "can your coalition allies support a general revelation rather than a hunt?" "I think so," she replied carefully. "If the human communities reveal themselves voluntarily as fellow coalition citizens seeking recognition rather than as a hidden threat, it changes the entire political situation. And if the hardliners still choose violence, then you'll have 200 Guardians fighting alongside thousands of human civilians and their coalition allies. That's a very different war than the one Supreme Commander Vorth is planning." Chen looked around at his fellow Guardians, seeing acceptance in their enhanced eyes. They had protected humanity through centuries of hiding. Now they would protect humanity through the courage to step into the light. "All Guardians, stand down from combat protocols," he ordered. "We have a new mission. Instead of fighting humanity's battles, we're going to help humanity fight for itself." "And if we're wrong?" asked Lieutenant Voss. "If the coalition chooses to hunt down every revealed human, then we'll discover what 200 ancient warriors and thousands of determined human civilians can accomplish when they fight together, instead of hiding apart." Chen activated the tomb ship's general communication system, broadcasting on all coalition frequencies. "This is General Marcus Chen of humanity's Old Guard. For 3 centuries, we have protected our people by keeping them hidden. Today, they have chosen to step into the light. They come not as conquerors or threats, but as citizens of this galaxy seeking their rightful place among the stars. We are no longer humanity's secret guardians. We are humanity's proud representatives. We offer our knowledge, our service, and our friendship to any who will accept it. But we also offer this warning: anyone who threatens human civilians will face not just us, but every human in this